we get, okay, so before we get into our business, I have something I'd like to say.
Please.
So the meeting is formally open, is that correct?
Yes, I haven't read the recording announcements and so on, but the meeting is open.
So read that, and then if you would indulge me, I have something I'd like to say.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'd like to inform everyone that Steve Batty of All Media Productions is making a video and audio recording of today's meeting in public session for the Martha's Vineyard Community Television, MVTV. I'd also like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communications director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? And if so, please identify yourself by pressing the raise your hand icon, or if you're joining by phone, pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you're recognized, please state your name for the record. Thank you. Anyone recording, please let us know.
Yeah.
Rich Salzberg, MV Times.
Thank you.
Is that it, Sean?
One more coming in.
Thank you.
This is Noah Asimo with the Gazette.
Thank you, Noah. Okay, we're good to go.
Thank you. In response to Governor Baker's executive orders concerning the necessity to conduct public meetings in line with the social distancing guidelines during the current state of emergency involving the COVID-19 pandemic, all board members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. All board members are participating in the meeting via the Zoom video conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of the remote participation, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rainey, sir.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jones is
Yeah.
participating via a conference line, not via the Zoom at the moment.
Thank you. I appreciate the correction. Mr. Rainey, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, I'm also on the conference call, not via video by the Zoom. This is Rob Randy in Nantucket. I'd just like to read the following statement that I feel very strongly about. The Steamship Authority was created with the mandate to serve the islands of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard by providing transportation and necessities of life. In recent years, both islands have enjoyed a solid working relationship on the board, sharing similar interests and concerns, working together with a common understanding and purpose to better the SSA for the benefit of our constituencies. The board, SSA management, and indeed all SSA employees work hard, often going unnoticed and unappreciated, but dedicated nonetheless to serving the islands in the face of constant public criticism. Board members walk a fine line between pursuing their port community's interests through policy making and working diplomatically with the other board members, and their fiduciary obligation to those port communities by keeping a watchful eye on SSA finances, as we are all ultimately responsible to our appointing authorities and the very people we represent. Last week, I read an article in a Martha's Vineyard newspaper that shocked and offended me and left me questioning whether the working camaraderie that the two islands enjoyed together was in jeopardy, wondering if Mr. Malkin's feelings toward SSA management were properly represented by the tone of the article. I can only hope that Mr. Malkin was misquoted and a correction will be printed, or if indeed he was not misquoted or the optics distorted by context, Mr. Malkin will be given the opportunity to correct or clarify his comments. I'm in my 8th year on this board, and in my time on the board, I have never seen, heard, or felt anything other than true dedicated professionalism by the entire SSA team, from top to bottom. I have sat in on annual audits with our outside and nationally respected audit teams. I have read financial statements. I have questioned decisions and budgets, sometimes not agreeing with them, but understanding the reasons thereof. I have looked for evidence of wrongdoing. I have signed my name to annual reports, even in years when those reports were late due to some accounting rule change or governmental reporting requirement snafu. The only fault I have found is the unrelenting dedication to follow the board's direction and then to go above and beyond. Dedication to the SSA's mission and unwavering pride in carrying out that mission to a fault in service to the islands for the benefit of all of us, in my opinion, is hardly cause for alarm or for fomenting negative press. During these unprecedented and uncertain times, we need to work together more than ever. I take my responsibilities and obligations as a board member very seriously. The substance of the article and its insinuations place the board and the entire SSA in a very damning light while propagating the appearance of impropriety with misinformation and inflammatory comments. Indeed, the mistruths attributed to Mr. Malkin have maligned not only the dedicated professionals who we rely upon to do their jobs and run the SSA for our benefit, but they also cast a shadow over the entire board, including Mr. Malkin himself, by implying complicity in some nefarious fiscal scandal which does not even remotely exist. To come on this board as a new member and immediately start publicly lobbing bombshells, suggesting even a hint of impropriety, and that by suggestion we are all party to it, before acquiring any meaningful understanding of the inner workings of the entire operation, only serves to fuel derisive public speculation and is counterproductive to maintaining, or in some cases regaining, public trust. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, prior to your responding to Mr. Rainey's comments, I would like to make a statement because I think it may encompass a lot of the retort that you may have. So as New Bedford's representative and the second most senior person on the board, I'd like to make a statement. I feel after reading the MV Times article probably 5 or 6 times, I feel compelled to address the inaccurate, inflammatory, and incendiary comments that you made to the Dukes County Commission on May 6th. I think it's important that I make this statement for the benefit of our management, our customers, the legislatures who have been working so diligently to help us through this financial crisis, management and other governmental agencies that are part of our quest to sustain our operations to the islands. I've served on the board since June of 2015 when I took over my father's slot, who had served on the board for 7 years prior to that. My father was a well-respected retired Superior Court judge of the Commonwealth. And when he was schooling me as to my responsibilities as a board member, he indicated to me that the most important thing I could recognize is that it was incumbent upon me to balance all of my positions and all of my votes with a duty both to the Steamship Authority as well as a duty to the City of New Bedford, my appointing authority. My fellow board members, as well as the Times, who has reprinted stories, and I think in large part the general public knows that I'm very direct about my comments regarding the inefficiencies that I see or the good work that I see of management. I think it's important to point out that both Mr. Rainey and I and the rest of the board members went through the whole RMA process where our operations and our structure, we participated very, very thoroughly in that whole procedure. When I disagree with management, they know it. But for you to state that the SSAs, and this is the comment that I take the most objection to, SSA's audited ledgers, I think you call them the 2019 ledgers, are nowhere to be found. You know, that's really a gross, wanton, and reckless misrepresentation of the facts. The facts are as follows. Management and our outside auditing firm are working diligently to complete the steps required to have our year-end numbers certified. Regardless of whether or not we have certified year-end numbers, I think the public and certainly the papers need to know that at all times, we as board members have available to us the most current numbers regarding the Steamships Authority's financial information. This was true for each and every month of 2019, and it's also been true for January, February, March, and April of 2020. For you to suggest that there is anything unusual, deceptive, or nefarious is really both naive and wrong, and undermines the good work that this board and the authority is doing. Governmental accounting standards and principles and the timetable is largely prescribed by our outside auditors. And they have, it is my understanding, the large part of the information that they need directly from us and our management, specifically Bob Davis and Mark Rosum. And let me go back, and I was so troubled by this article that I went back and did a review of when we received our audit level letter since 2000, since 1999. And I can tell you, Mr. Malcolm, that not once were our financials certified on March 1st. In fact, these certifications range from several months late to almost a year. And each of those delays vis-a-vis our Enabling Act were for legitimate accounting purposes. Now, I recognize, Mr. Malcolm, that you're also on the Board of Selectmen of the town of Chilmark. So for comparison purposes, I reviewed when the town of Chilmark had their audited statements prepared. And in fact, I'd like for the record to reflect as follows. In 2016, the town of Chilmark's financial statements were prepared 4.5 months after the year end. In 2017, they were prepared 5 months after the year end. In 2018, they were prepared 6.5 months after the year end. And in 2019, they were prepared 4.5 months after the year end. To suggest that as of May 6th, our financials are quote unquote are nowhere to be found is just reckless. I'd point out that the town of Chilmark has a budget that's minute in comparison to ours and deals with regulatory issues that are nowhere near as complex as ours. Regarding your comment that the certified financials were needed for us to, and I'm quoting directly from the article, plot a course forward is really fatally flawed. We have reliable financial information from management available to us at all times. What we need and what management has been working so diligently to provide are revenue projections so that we can plot a course forward. Has nothing to do with certified financials. I can tell you as a board member, as a previous commercial lending officer from some of the biggest banks in the country, and as an assistant treasurer of NSTAR, which is now known as Eversource, we at all times as board members are fully aware of the income, assets, liability, and expenses of our authority. Management provides me anytime I ask with any information that I request in a very timely manner. There's not one piece of information that is instrumental or necessary for us to look at the projections that we don't have now that certified financials will give us. I also have to question your comments that you're seizing the opportunity to question the economics of the Steamships Authority authorizing our valuable partners such as Highline, C Street, and the Patriot to transport passengers to the island. It is my opinion that this comment on your part reflects a lack of knowledge and understanding of Steamship Authority economics, where our partners very often provide transportation to the islands that is not efficient for us to do so. To suggest, never mind cause to have published, that the Steamship Authority is considering diverting income from them who have contractual licenses with us, where we are all working alongside each other to ensure regular passenger service to the island, is really naive and irresponsible. I would like the board to send a very strong message to our licensees that we don't share your view as reflected in the Martha's Vineyard article. Lastly, Mr. Malcolm, I'm beyond disturbed that you feel that you can represent my position and the way I vote to the Dukes County Commission. I'm especially offended by that because you did so and you represented my position grossly inaccurately. As an attorney, I take my word very, very, very seriously. It is my bond. And for you to tell the Dukes County Commission that I, quote unquote, didn't want to do anything, that I voted against authorizing repairs to the Oak Bluffs terminal, is absolutely inaccurate and a mischaracterization. Why would you feel comfortable in representing my position to another governmental authority unless and until you were reading directly from minutes that were accurate? I've never talked to you about any of my positions independent of recorded meetings. You have no personal knowledge. I've actually never met you face to face. You don't know what I would or wouldn't do or how I would or wouldn't vote. And you've only attended 4 out of the nearly 80 meetings that I have participated in. To go a step further, even when you sought to correct what you say are the inaccuracies of the Martha's Vineyard Gazette's reporting, you again mischaracterized my position. What you told, or what the article reported as quote unquote supposed to be your correction, is that myself and another board member didn't feel it was necessary to have 2 ports on the island. That's not accurate at all. What I did say was, at this point in time, where we are looking to analyze each and every expenditure we make, perhaps it's best deferring that expenditure and operating out of 1 port until we have ourselves on better financial footing. I take my relationship with the Vineyard very seriously, as I do with my relationship with the islands. I remember at all times my father's advice to me that I had a fiduciary responsibility to both New Bedford as well as the islands and the Steamship Authority. And I quite frankly, resent that you grossly characterized my actions. And I would ask you to refrain from making any representation in the future about what I do or how I vote or my positions, as you can't be relied upon to report the same accurately. Lastly, and I think just as important as the other comments I made, I'm horrified by the light that you have placed both Mr. Davis and Mr. Rosen in. If you read the Facebook comments that you can read relative to the Steamship Authority, their reputations have been hurt by your reckless comments. It has been. I want to clearly and unequivocally state that I have the utmost trust and confidence in the information that our management provides to us. And they provide it to us timely, even under the most difficult of circumstances. Although it's, everybody on the board right now, management, and I'm certainly the press, knows that I often disagree with management, and when I disagree with management, I make my position known. At no time have I ever questioned the management's commitment to the Steamship Authority, management's unbelievable work ethic, and management's integrity, which I think the public needs to know is beyond reproach. It's really unfortunate that an inexperienced board member's reckless and misinformed comments has created unnecessary controversy and suspicion about the Steamship Authority at a time where we are all working our hardest to share this terrible financial drain and continue to provide service to the islands. I'm finished, Mr. Malcolm.
Thank you, Ms. Tierney. Anybody else? Catherine?
Thank
Ms.
you,
Wilson.
both of you, Maura and Rob, for your comments. I agree with them. I was very concerned about the nature of the way the reporting was made in the newspaper. We are in unprecedented times in terms of how we're handling the Steamship Authority. And if there's ever a time for the board to be as efficient and united in terms of what we need to be considering and talking about, this is definitely the right time to do that. And to be sort of sidelined with this nonsense is really a shame. In terms of the financials, I did not understand how the audit process works. And what I've come to understand in the past few days is that the auditing process is an evaluation by the outside firm as to all the data points. So it's not that we're going through whether or not we've balanced our books and all that kind of thing. It's someone else saying, oh, a check was written here, it was sent to there, let me double check. They make the phone call. So it's a painstaking, detailed review of all the data points in the financial records. And the representing how I voted, which was contrary to how I actually voted, was very troubling. And it gives our communities the wrong information. And we need our communities to be working together on this. We have shared responsibilities, shared obligations, shared interests, and those are what we need to be focusing on. So I would say let's go forward from here and do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Not sure what it said.
We're not sure whether we lost him again. Hold on.
Okay. All right. Let me respond this way. First of all, I want to publicly apologize. Go ahead. Can you hear me? Is my audio on?
Yeah, we can hear you. I think
Okay.
Mr. Jones was trying to say something, I think, too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
He might have a connection problem, so.
All right. Well, if he comes back on, I want to, first of all, publicly apologize to Ms. Tierney and Ms. Wilson for misstating on the record things that they had said on the record. And that was an error of mine. Secondly, I hear very loud and clear what's been said by the board members. I accept the constructive criticism, and I recognize that we do have to work as a board, and we do have to support the Steamship Authority through this unprecedented time. To the extent that I have learned from the past several weeks, or the past month particularly, that the portrayal of things that are said or inferred or implied, other than, as Ms. Tierney said, from being on the record, things get out of control and out of hand very quickly. I have told this week and last week, Mr. Davis and Mr. Rosen, that at no time was I suggesting, or did I intend to suggest, that things were hidden. The concern I had about audited statements has to do with my concern about our cash position and our need for more revenues. And all of that being said, I appreciate the schooling, and I look forward to working well with the board and with management going forward to fulfill the mission of the Steamship Authority. So thank you for the constructive criticism. With that, if we can move forward, unless Mr. Jones is on and wants to say something. Nothing from Robert?
I'm not sure what his connection is, so.
All right. Mr. Davis, you want to move forward with the update?
Okay, so as of May 11th, the most recent timeline we have for traffic numbers, our passenger traffic for both routes combined is about 25% of what we would expect for the month of May. We're carrying about 1,900 passengers on average between all the routes per day, and we normally would be seeing about 7,400 passengers a day on average. Our automobile traffic, meanwhile, is about 40% of what we would expect. We're carrying just under 500 cars a day. We normally would be expecting about 1,200. And we're about roughly 50% of what our truck traffic would be. We got 330 trucks on average versus the 660 that we would normally expect to see. So I think we have a 7-day calendar that Sean's going to share here. I don't know if everyone can see it. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that. So this is something that Mark put together, and it shows, our passenger automobiles, the smaller trucks and the larger trucks, and what the trend is. So again, the trend is our friend. It's going upwards. In this case, that's a good thing. And it's charted against the traffic levels of a year ago at the same time. So as you see there, passengers are roughly about 25% of what we would expect, and et cetera. So kind of illustrates it is moving. It is moving up. We have noticed increased demands for our services. So in terms of that, we made some adjustments in the schedule. This past week, we changed the Martha's Vineyard from being a Monday through Friday scheduled vessel to being 7 days a week. So we ran that over this past weekend. We're looking at the traffic demands, and we're going to be changing that from a double crew to a triple crew come Friday, which means they'll be able to run up to 7 trips a day. As part of that, the vessel will berth over in Vineyard Haven, so it'll start the day on island. So that early morning trip, the 6 a.m. trip, will resume there. On the Nantucket route, we have the Gayhead has been triple crewed at this point. It has been scheduled to run 3 trips a day. We're seeing freight shipments seem to be picking up on that route a little bit more than on the Vineyard route. So we're actually breaking out as we speak. I think the Sankaty is being taken out of layup status and put into service to run a couple trips today, because we have a backlog of some freight shipments going to Nantucket. But we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward. The plan will be to provide service with the Sankaty going forward, starting, I believe the schedule we're looking at the schedule on the 21st. So, So those are things. I think Mark has some information regarding some of our reservation activity and what he's saying in terms of the cash. As of the end of the day yesterday, we're about $1.5 million ahead of where we anticipated our cash position to be a month ago. So that's a good thing. More receipts coming in. Expenses are still holding fairly steady at what we were projecting here. So it's on the receipt side of it, and I think Mark has a little bit more detail.
So for the month of April, we averaged about just under 19% of our credit card receipts for the whole month. We saw an increase at the end of the month. So far for the first 11 days of May, we're averaging about 45% of what our credit card receipts were for last year. And if you look at that and with the models of the traffic for this, that Bob just showed with the graphs, we're starting to see a trend in increased traffic, which is a good sign. The one concern I have is this spike in traffic recently. Is that associated with the construction opening up? Is this a one-time pent-up demand, or is this a real forecast model going forward? So as we see a little bit more time going through, we'll be able to see if that curve is going to straighten out or if it's going to keep that percentage growth. The one thing we are not seeing is the walk-on passengers. As the cars go up, the quantity of people going up, but we're not seeing that passenger proportion to the amount of vehicles increasing at all. So that's one thing that might, when we get closer to Memorial Day, when you see that high volume of passengers, it'll be interesting to see where we stand on that.
So one of the things that we're looking and trying to monitor as well is with the vehicle traffic, without the passenger traffic, whether the vehicle traffic seems to be, at least it looks like we're able to cover our direct operating costs for the vessels that we had there. It's our other non-operating costs that we need to be covering, and that's still an issue at this point. So it's dependent upon some increased ridership, and the traffic numbers for the month. I think we're based on the schedule that we've been running. We're about 69% total occupancy on the vessels. So it's directional. We have, on the Nantucket Run, for instance, we had the demand trying to get to the island right now, not so much leaving the island. So we'll continue to look at that, and as we go along, I think the approach we've been taking, and I think hopefully this is an approach the board is comfortable with, is these incremental changes in the schedule, and hopefully we don't fall behind too much in terms of what the demand is, but we'll be looking at that. And I think next week the goal will be to get the Island Home out on the Vineyard route as well, so that way we can have a little bit more capacity at that boat office. So.
In the future bookings, it's really a wait and see pattern. When you're looking at July and August, we're not seeing any material movement one way or the other. Comparing week to week. And when I update the graph next week, I'll show what the previous week is as well, so you can see what the growth in each category, or the movement, I should say, in each category. But I think a lot of people like ourselves are waiting to see what the phased approach by the governor is going to be, and what's going to be open in phase 1, 2, and 3, and 4.
So by comparison for that chart, the month of June, the increase over where we were a week ago, we did go up by about 640 reservations month of June this year, but that only equates to 26% of what we had saw a year ago at the same time. July, we went up by 210 reservations versus a week ago, and that's 15% of what we had experienced a year ago. And in August, we went up, which is a good thing, but we only went up by 16 reservations, which equates to 2% of what a year ago, the amount of reservations that were made that same week a year ago. So we're holding our own there on that. So I think we're probably we're in that still 85 to 90% of bookings for the summer season. So let's hope that trend remains.
In one area we are seeing softness in is the tour groups, and that would be expected.
Thank you, Mark. For myself, I appreciate that 7-day rolling average graph. I think that's very helpful.
And we'll be updating that every week for you.
Thank you.
A
Any of
short
the other board
question?
members have questions or comments, please?
Just a short question. I think that that's great to be able to keep monitoring and then adjusting the schedule accordingly. Do we get input from the vineyard, the towns on the vineyard in Nantucket, or their hospitals as to whether they have any concerns or questions or advice for us in terms of this?
So early on, there was a lot of input that we were receiving from them. Recently, I'm actually not aware of any, in terms of the hospitals, in terms of any travel, we always make accommodations to get, ambulance services taken care of right away and the like. At this point, I was checking this morning, and any food deliveries that are coming to the island are still a priority, and we're still making sure we get them over there, and things like that. So, but I think overall, at this point, we're trying to respond to what the demand levels are, and also to anticipate what those are. The trucking industry, it is down. Some of our bigger shippers there's been conversations with them. They are down considerably, and we appreciate those firms that have been able to notify us far enough ahead of time that they won't be needing that space, so that way we're not scheduling service where it turns out that we don't need it because we have a rash of, the truck cancellation policy is 24 hours or up to the noontime the day before. So, we would end up having service levels that don't match what demand we have. And we're grateful that by and large, they're following our request to give us earlier notice. So.
And a lot of the shippers are really going out 2 weeks like we are, because it's so many variables trying to figure out what you're going to need. And for instance, what phases are the restaurants going to start opening? How quickly the delivery is going to be needed? What do they have in the walk-ins, the pantry? So it's a lot of, there's going to be a pent-up demand, a little spike when that opens. It's a matter of forecasting and keeping up the good conversations we have with these shippers now. And our truck team out in Mashpee and our agents on the front line do a great job of coordinating and communicating with these folks.
Mr. Chairman?
My old operations hat.
Yes, Ms. Cheney.
Yes. So if I missed your comment on this, I apologize. When are we going to start adding trips to the vineyard? I understand that people are having a tough time getting reservations.
Yeah, so starting on Friday, the Martha's Vineyard ends up being triple crewed. So we'll go from running 4 trips a day to running 7 trips a day. And
Okay.
that'll be 7 days a week. So that picks up 150 car equivalent spaces a day for vehicle space.
Starting Friday.
Birthed on the island.
And then, it's also birthed on the island. It'll be birthed on the island, so that way, there'll be that earlier morning trip for an island resident to get off to get to an appointment and be able to get back to the island.
So we'll be going from 4 trips to 7, is that right?
Yeah, so right now we're running 11 trips a day. We'll be going to 14 trips total.
And
7 days a week.
that can't be done any sooner than Friday?
If there's a demand that we have, we can bring in an extra crew to run. The crew assignments right now, that's the extent of their operating day. We'd have to bring in a separate crew, much like we're doing today for the Sankaty, where we recognize that there was the demand there. So we're bringing a crew in to run the Sankaty to Nantucket, a couple trips to clean up that backlog.
Okay. Thank you.
Unfortunately, sometimes it ends up being a matter of timing as opposed to capacity. Obviously, everyone wants to travel at noontime, for instance, and we can only accommodate so many vehicles at noontime. So, the big thing will be is once we get the island home back online here the end of next week, we'll be able to, with the larger freight deck capacity and even with the lift decks, we'll be able to relieve some of the pressure on that as well.
And one other update I have is I submitted into the CCRTA for the reimbursement for the CARES Act last week, and I will find out where we stand on that. So that was for the 9.8 million, and the other 2.4 million was previously submitted in. So as soon as I find out what the status on when we can expect the funds, I'll update the board.
Thank you. Anything further on the update before we move into the OB pair?
Thank you.
Bob, could you hear me?
Yep.
Can you
Okay,
hear
good.
me?
Yeah, I
Can
can now. I think I'm unstable in terms of the connection anyway.
The connection you're talking about? The instability?
Jim
We can
Malkin
barely
was
hear
talking
you.
about
Yeah.
his
I
connection,
get
right?
it.
So if there wasn't any other questions regarding that. Next item is to obtain authorization to award contract number 09-2020 to repair and replace approximately 13 structural piles on the Oak Bluff Pier, as well as miscellaneous pile caps and stringer repairs as defined in the construction documents. So back in April, the board instructed us to proceed with placing a contract out for bid to replace the 35 structural piles that were deemed critical by the engineers. But during that process, we heard back from a number of potential bidders that there was concern regarding the abilities to be able to get that many pilings done and the caps done in that time frame that was being allotted. We had a $10,000 a day liquidated damages provision in the contract, and they were indicated that they were they didn't think, they weren't comfortable with being able to meet that date, and so they didn't want to run the risk of end up having liquidated damages. So we went back and looked at the project and came up with a reduced plan in which there'd be 13 pilings done along with some pile caps in order to make it so that way we can have automobiles and pickup trucks use that facility. So yesterday afternoon, we opened up there was 3 quotes that were submitted. One is by Coastal Marine Construction LLC of Canton, Mass. for $267,524. And they had a low, they would be the low bid. And so the recommendation to members vote to authorize the general manager to award contract number 09-2020 to repair or replace approximately 13 structural piles on the Oak Bluff Pier, as well as miscellaneous pile caps and stringer repairs to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder for the contract, Coastal Marine Construction LLC, in the amount of $267,524.
Any other members have questions for Mr. Davis?
I have a question, but I'll wait till anybody else. May I?
Jim, can you hear me?
Malcolm can hear Mr. Jones, yeah.
Okay, this is exactly what I called for at 2 different meetings, is to do a scale back type of situation so we could get that dock open for the people in Woods Hole as requested. So this plays right into, my ball game. I would certainly be more than happy to make that motion and recommendation. It isn't the way it should be done. It should be done at all one time. That's a given, but now sometimes you've got to do what you got to do to make things happen. And I hope the people in Woods Hole will be happy for that. It'll probably be scaled back on the big trucks. I'm not sure that what you decided on that, but the H20 loading and things should be fine for the smaller trucks and also naturally the public. So I would be happy to make a motion to push that forward.
Well, thank you for that. We're in discussion. Ms. Tierney?
Yes, In light of,
Motion for-
in light of our experience with Cashman, what in this particular contract, what are the provisions regarding change orders?
So the materials that are being, that are required for the project are being provided by us. We issued the contract for that ahead of time because there's a long lead time on that. So at this point, materials are, a separate contract, and it's going to be those materials. I'm understanding now the piles are readily available, and the lumber for the caps is going to be available the first week of June. So that we talked with the Coastal Marine following the bid opening. They're very comfortable with the time frame, and even if they were to get the timber for the stringer cap for the cap as late as the 8th, that they are comfortable that they would be able to get the project completed in the time frame that is done. They have assets available right now. They figure they can get the everything pre-set up for those pile caps. And as I said this morning, as I was walking down to the meeting, I was informed by our procurement officer that she had followed up with the company that we're getting the lumber from, and they're now saying that they anticipate the lumber to arrive a week earlier.
But Bob, I don't think that was directly the answer to my question. My question really is when we execute a contract with Coastal Marine, I don't want to see a wide sort of out for change orders. So we're saying 260, correct? Around 260, but that's just for Coastal Marine, right?
Correct.
That's just for their performance of the work, right?
Correct.
Doesn't include, excuse me, doesn't include any of the materials. We're getting those?
Yeah, we're getting those. That came in somewhere, I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe is somewhere around $75,000. But the order had been placed for all of the materials, so we'll actually have all the materials. Only a portion of it is going to be ended up being used at this point.
Okay, so this is much less than what I was thinking, between 500,000 and 600,000. And then it also has some of the materials for when we do a more comprehensive repair.
Yeah.
Okay, in that price. But what I'm worried about is a contract that has a wide open out for Coastal Marine for change orders. I don't want to see that in the contract. This is the price. So I don't know who's handling this contract, but this is the price, the two, and you do this the way you're supposed to be doing it, and we're going to consider that in the next round. What was the next highest price?
The next lowest price was $457,000, so about $190,000 higher.
So what I'm worried about is between 260 and the 500, them coming back to us with change orders. That's what I'm worried about.
I'd just like to add that we've had an extensive survey accomplished prior to the issuance of the documents, so we have a pretty strong feel that the change orders will be minimal as a result of a proper specification.
Well, can we limit the change orders? Can we change? I'd like to see this contract really, draw down on the change orders. I don't want them coming back like we're experiencing with Cashman.
Well, the reduction of the specification and of having only 24 feet of pile cap along with the minimal amount of pilings reduces the risk factor for this extensive change order work.
But I don't want any risk factor. Not. I want them to say this is what the price is and this is what we're going to do, unless there's something that is so unforeseeable that reasonable minds could not differ.
I think that with the limited scope and the number of piles that had to be driven, I think they're going to be having time to be able to get the mobilize, get in position, get things set up, and then be able to work on those piles before they end up having the timbers for the caps. I think there shouldn't be. When we talked with them, they anticipated that they'd only be needing one crew, that there was sufficient amount of time in that schedule.
No, and I understand that. I'm more concerned about the contract that we execute.
Yes, no, I understand your concern, and obviously, we don't want to have any change orders either. So,
So who's working on doing the contract and getting rid of that change order out, or making it so narrow that whatever they come in at is reasonable. It's got to be really, 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 really narrow.
Understood. Terrence will work with Mark and make sure that in the facilities manager as well, that we stay on top of this.
Okay, yeah, maybe like the change orders have to be approved, by us and them. And in the event that we can't agree, it's got to go to somebody else. I mean, I just don't want, this bid is a couple of $100,000 less than the next highest bid for the same work. And I just foresee the possibility that, it goes high, it goes to the next lowest bidder, that the actual cost. I'm very concerned about the change order provision in the contract.
Catherine?
One of the, so there are the three bids. We've got one that's about 2.8, one's 4.6, and the other is 7.3.
Yep.
And in the past, I've been given to understand that we accept the lower one, that the higher ones are higher because they build in what they anticipate change orders would otherwise, involve. So why is there, can you give me any understanding why there's such a big disparity between these three bids?
Yeah, so in the case of the two low bidders, they did have, right, Coastal did have someone on site, right?
Yes.
The two low bidders, they both had, they did have representatives go over and inspect the pier. The third bidder, I'm not aware that they did send anyone. When we opened up the price and saw that, we were thinking that perhaps they were bidding on the full project when they submitted their proposal, but they did acknowledge receiving the addendum that identifies it that it's the smaller project. So not quite sure. The process yesterday was to review make sure everything was there that needed to be there, and then we had a follow-up call with Coastal, who I do see a couple of their people are in attendance as well. So, and I think the other piece of it was in terms of I think some of it is a matter of how busy the yards are at the moment, how the marine contractors are, and whether it's more beneficial for them to be putting their crews to work as opposed to having them stay at their facility. So
I can imagine for overcharges, the one area that sounds like a possible one would be finding unexpected, more extensive damage than was expected. So are we pretty confident, or is that maybe part of the reason why the two lower bidders were different? You said they both came and checked out the situation themselves?
And they also may have, we did put in a, $10,000 a day liquidated damages. So, again, I can't, speak to how these bidders put it together, but it's a possibility that they had included, some anticipation that perhaps if they are delayed, to be able to cover any liquidated damages. So that may have also been a factor in some of these bids as well. So.
And that provision is still in there, is that right?
Yes, it is.
And I have one last question. Are we obligated or required to take the lowest bid? Are we allowed to accept anything other than the lower bid?
Yeah, lowest eligible and responsible. So
I see.
we could have a firm that submits a lower bid, but if they're not a responsible firm, then their quote is thrown out.
Okay. And have we worked with Coastal before?
Yes, we have. Actually, I believe they're previously they were involved under a different name. I understand in the reconstruction of that pier back in the late 2000s.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I shared the concerns that were expressed earlier when I saw the spread between the three bids, and worried whether the lowest bid, the firm can come in at that price and on time. But I'm going to have to accept if we've worked with them. I did very little diligence. I did go on the website and looked at their references, but references on websites are usually from the people who are most satisfied. But I'd have to defer to our authorities' experience with these people if they're comfortable with them going forward.
Also,
Anybody else have any?
If you prorate the cost of our initial work scope paired back to the current work scope, it's more in line with the Coastal bid than the other bids.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Malcolm,
Ms.
may I
Kane?
ask? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So we have to do a vote on this today, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and may I assume in my voting that you're going to narrow? I mean, no one's seen any contract yet, correct?
The contract form was included in the bid package.
We did it? We sent it to them?
Yeah, anyone who took out the package. So the 19 firms that requested the bid package would have received the contract form.
Okay, and what does the contract form have relative to change orders? What is in that contract form?
I don't have it in front of me, but hold on one second. I think in regards to any change orders, it'd have to be something that would be, agreeable to both sides in terms of, what the need for that work was, and whether those prices, there's a unit price assigned to the values of certain items, so there's a factor there. So for instance, if there's additional work that's required on the cap, then it's specified as a unit price.
Correct, and also prorate, being able that we know the total area of the work, we'll be able to prorate the price.
We have to agree on a change order, correct?
That is correct.
So it takes, okay. All right. That's unequivocal, right?
Right, we would have to agree.
Okay. All right.
Any further conversation or discussion or questions? Okay, as I recall, did Mr. Jones have a motion?
He did.
He did.
Right.
Is there a second to that motion?
I will second it.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? No? I see one shaking head. No. Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor to accept the proposal and the recommendation of the authority. It's been seconded.
Wilson, aye.
Oh, it comes to a vote. Wilson, aye.
Tierney,
Jones,
aye.
aye. Yep.
Tierney,
Jones, aye.
aye. Jones, aye.
Randy, aye.
And Malkin, aye. Thank you all, and thank you to the authority for doing the work, changing the horse in midstream, so to speak, and getting this done. So I appreciate that. Is there anything further on this agenda before we go to executive session?
Am I visible?
No.
You, just your name.
That's good enough.
Okay. Before we go into executive session and I read that, I'd like to suggest to the board that we now, with this meeting, we stop the weekly meetings and go to our monthly meeting rotation for the following reasons. For me, certainly, it's become clear that the way forward in terms of traffic and in terms of volume and revenue is well outside of our control. And I appreciate the modeling and the information that we're getting. But really, I listened to the Secretary of Treasury of the United States yesterday and couldn't decide whether we were 20 million people unemployed or 25 million people unemployed or whether it was percentages. Nobody knows where this thing is going. So to the extent that we now have graphs from Mr. Rosem that give us traffic indications and moving averages, I'm comfortable with going back to our monthly meetings, if that makes sense, and allowing the authority to spend its time making the ships run.
Jim?
So, yeah.
Jim, I agree with you. Although I might suggest, in thinking quickly, that we go to bi-monthly and see how that works. And you're right. I mean, there's no way. I've looked over our, the last financials with the balance sheet and thing as the end of March. I've looked over the cost of service. I've looked over the schedules and things like that. We have no idea what the income and the ridership is. It's almost a day-by-day operation, but we got to have two themes in mind. And number one is we got to pursue making money and grants and things like that, and we got to cut expenses. And how we do that is just a work in process. So I would throw that out as a bi-monthly rather than monthly. It seems like after 30 days, a lot of territory has been covered. I have enjoyed this, weekly, because I think it gets, the board a little closer together. It seems like when you go monthly, you hardly know anybody. But anyway, I just throw that out for the rest of the board's discussion. Neither way, whatever it is okay.
I concur with Bob Jones. I concur with you, Bob. Twice. I think twice a month is a good idea.
Okay.
So do you think maybe we should think about after, like, we're going to do May, like June, like maybe the 1st and the 15th?
Well, what I was thinking of is having the meeting count as one of the monthly meetings and then a second one later on, or however we adjust it. And that would be 2 meetings.
Yeah, fine. I like that idea.
Ms. Wilson?
Sounds good.
Mr. Rainey?
Yeah, I'll go along with the pleasure of the board. I think having all these meetings is putting a lot of strain on staff, but reducing it, I'm in favor of reducing the frequency.
All right. It seems to be a predominance of opinion that we do go to twice a month. Could we leave that to Bob to come up with a schedule? That'd
Sure.
be suitable.
Between you and the general manager, I think it can get covered.
Sure.
As it stands right now, we do have a regular scheduled monthly meeting next Tuesday on the 19th. So under that idea, it would be then again on June 2nd. And then I believe our June meeting would be scheduled for the 16th anyway. So I think that works out in this case, right?
Bob, what's your feeling on this? You're the one who's being burdened with the task of prepping and your staff.
As much as I enjoy spending time with you all, I understand the value of keeping the board informed and try to keep the updates that I've been sending along. And of course, the board, the Port Council, you can always give me a call if there's ever a question. If I can't get you the answer, I know I can figure out who can get me the answer. So
So you're comfortable then with 2 meetings?
that's fine.
All right. Well, let's proceed in that manner then. Okay. At this point, my diligent has logged out, but I believe we're going to move into an executive session.
Do we have to have any public, do we need to have public comment before we do that?
Thank you. Thank you. Sean, can you handle that? While I get back into diligent.
Comment, press the raise hand icon, or if you're on the phone, it's, what is it, 9 star? Terry?
Star 9.
Star 9. Okay. Coming in here. Francine, you're on.
Good morning, everybody. This has been really interesting to take part in. I just have a quick request for the board to consider, and that would be some form of relief. I know finances are a big question right now, but we vineyarders have postponed a lot of off-island trips due to the pandemic. And now that we're going into the increased fare period, it is an additional hardship for a lot of people who have postponed medical visits, etc. And I am just throwing it out there to the board to please consider some form of either an extension of the lower $66 rate or that we're currently paying for an additional period, or to grant, island profile holders, 3 trips this summer to take care of what they've postponed in terms of off-island trips. Going up to the full fare, I understand you guys need the money and I respect that, but we're all suffering too. And a lot of people have postponed important trips. And now that we're going into the higher fare, it puts an additional burden. Thoughts?
This is Malcolm. Certainly something that we should consider and do some modeling on, and then be able to address that at our next meeting next week.
That would be great.
That would be my response.
Okay.
Anybody else,
Yeah.
please?
I'm receptive to the idea. I mean, the idea is that, if I understand you right, Francine, is that due to the viral problem, vineyarders or islanders who had medical appointments or other routine things that they needed to do had to postpone that, and therefore missed the opportunity to use the lower fare. Is that right?
That's exactly correct.
And so just to not, further, punish them for that depends on how we could, I would like to know whether we could work that out. Sounds like a reasonable request.
So I mean, just as a thought, if you can't just extend the lower rate for this period to come, starting, I believe, on the 14th, give profile holders several trips at the lower price.
Yeah.
Not open it up for the whole period per se, but to perhaps consider 3-4 trips during this time frame.
Okay.
I think it's something worth discussing.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got a couple more. I believe this is Mr. Salzberg coming in.
Hello.
Indeed it is.
was wondering if anyone could answer whether or not the bid package or the evaluation running up to the bid package for the OB pier repairs contemplated any state or federal mandatory code upgrades that a project of a certain percentage on the pier could hypothetically trigger, if any.
I missed part of that question, Rich.
I'm wondering if the contract contemplates code upgrades that might be necessary. I'm not saying they are. I'm just curious if that's possible with marine infrastructure construction that might be necessary when you do a repair of the scale you're doing.
Yeah. So it's repair in kind work that's being done at this point. Not an upgrade to the to what's there. It's just to replace what has been damaged. So the engineer had looked at it, so I'm confident that we're okay there.
Okay, thank you.
And then Bob Morris. Ian? Bob, if you're there, unmute yourself. No, there he is. Bob Morris? Bob Morris? Okay, now we'll move on from that one. And the last one is Carrie Gentile from the Falmouth Enterprise.
Want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, Carrie, unmute yourself.
Is this for me? I was just frozen for about 10 seconds.
Yeah,
I'm unstable as well, evidently. I'm wondering what the status is, if you've heard back from the governor's office or from the state about the request for money.
Okay, so we continue to have discussions with MassDOT as well as with the Executive Office of Administration and Finance regarding our position, our status. Since the letter had been issued, of course, we had the CARES Act and Congressman Keating being able to get those funds expedited sooner has taken some of the pressure off at this. Once those monies, could be coming in shortly here. So, we continue to evaluate, to have discussions with them, review what options there are from the within the Enabling Act itself, and then what opportunities the Commonwealth would have in order to be able to assist us. So I'm encouraged by our conversations at this stage, and we'll see as we go along.
Great. At the last meeting, you said that with the CARES Act, that could probably take you through July, and then with the revolving loan, possibly through Labor Day. Is that still where you're at?
Yeah, and the issue, as mentioned earlier, that we are about $1.5 million ahead of where we expected to be at this point in terms of some of the receipts coming in a little better. So that all that will help, and we'll see as we go forward what the reservation activity is for those summer months as we get closer as well. So. But in terms of the Enabling Act, there is some latitude there in terms of the borrowing if we end up being in a position that we need the cash. So, and that's where that municipal liquidity program came into play.
Great, thank you.
That's all I've got.
No more public comment seen.
That's it. All right, in that case, we'd like to move into executive session, and we will not come back into open session following this. Shall I read the statement prior to going in, or should we just take a vote to go in?
You have to read the statement.
All right, then I'll read the statement. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss the authority's strategy with respect to potential litigation matters. Because a public discussion of these matters may have a detrimental effect on the authority's negotiating bargaining positions. These matters include the potential for litigation with Senesco Marine LLC regarding contract number 022020, overhead and dry dock of the motor vessel Katama. Public disclosure of any more information with respect to these matters would compromise the purposes for which the executive session is being called. After the conclusion of the executive session, we will not reconvene in public session. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make
So
a
moved.
motion. I'll second
Okay.
it then.
We have a motion that's been made and seconded. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Wilson, I.
Tierney, aye.
Jones, aye.
Rainey, aye.
Malkin, aye. Thank you. Thank you for everybody for participating, and we'll now move into executive session.
Thank you. Board members, I'm going to end this webinar, but if you could wait about 5 minutes and just rejoin the same webinar, and then we'll start executive session. So just click the same link you clicked this morning to get in.
Oh, you're not
Thank
going to do that, are you?
Sorry, Bob.
Sounds like it.
Faith in you, Bob.
Yeah, right.
Not going to see you.
I'll see you next week.